What is going on, everybody? Today I am going to do another video and I'm going to be predicting the SEC standings since the new AP poll came out, and I saw a lot of teams from the ACC had some very hard schedules, with Arkansas and Texas playing 7 AP poll teams. And I thought maybe I should do a video on that, seeing who would do the best in the standings. So I'm going to go from the bottom tier to the top tier, and I'm going to predict what the SEC championship will be. So, starting out, I got Kentucky at the bottom of the conference. I don't think they're going to be that great. I have them going 2-10 and 0-9 in the conference. I don't necessarily think they did worse in recruiting than last year. I just think they're going to be really unlucky with the games they have this season. And I think they're going to lose to a lot of good teams in the SEC, because I thought the SEC did a lot better in the offseason, and they're going to be a lot better than last year. So I got Kentucky losing every SEC game and being very unlucky in some games and losing games they shouldn't lose. And right above them, I got Mississippi State. Mississippi State, I thought, did better in the recruiting, but I also think they're going to be in the same situation as Kentucky. And Mississippi State always seems to just do bad because they're Mississippi State. So I have them going 0-9 and 3-9 overall. Up above them is Arkansas, going 1-8 in the conference and 4-8 overall. Now, the reason I have them being in this position, not because they're a bad team necessarily, but because of the schedule they have. Sometimes it is very good to have a tough schedule, because the harder your schedule is, the odds of you making the college football playoff increase. But the thing is, if it's too hard, then you're not going to win the games that you should win, and you're going to lose many games, and you're not going to do any good. I think Arkansas will be in that position this year. And I also think that their quarterback is overrated, and I don't think Taylor Green is what people say he is. And I don't think he's going to have a great year this year. So coming in at the 13th spot, I have South Carolina. I don't think Lenore Sellers is that kind of guy. I honestly think he's overrated. I don't think he's going to be in the Heisman. I don't think he's going to be a Heisman finalist by the end of the year. Personally, I think South Carolina is just going to be an unlucky team. All the teams at the bottom aren't necessarily bad, or as bad as the record shows they are, but they are really unlucky, and they'll lose games that they shouldn't lose, and the coaching will probably tank them, in my opinion, or I think that's what's going to happen. Coming in next is going to be Vanderbilt. Now, the thing about Vanderbilt is I don't think that they're going to lose all the games they should lose, and they're going to win all the games that they should win. They're not going to be unlucky or lucky. They're just going to be where they should be. They're going to be 6-6 and 3-6 in the conference. To me, no Pavia equals no AP poll ranking or college football playoff contender. I know they have this new 5-star quarterback coming in, but to me, I don't think he is what Pavia is, and I don't think he'll carry that team like he did. I think Pavia was kind of special, where he's not a prospect for the NFL that's taken seriously, but he's that kind of college football quarterback who is a one of a kind in a way. Coming up next will be Missouri at 6-6. I think Missouri offensively was carried by their running back Hardy, but because of the injury he had over the offseason, being shot, I think that will affect his game greatly for worse. And I think Missouri will have a tough time offensively, and I don't think the defense can do much to help that offense. So coming in at 10th is a little bit of a shocker. I have Tennessee going 8-4 and 5-4 in the conference. Now, Tennessee, I don't think is a bad team, but I do think they are an overrated team. I think Tennessee has a great home crowd. I think that will win them a couple of games, but I don't think Tennessee will be great when it comes to the quarterback position, and that's your star. That's the star of the team right there. I think honestly, overall, Tennessee is the wild card. They could be good or bad, or it could be good or just all right. I have them just being all right, going 8-4. I think there's three wild cards in the SEC this year, and I think it's Bama, Tennessee, and LSU, and Tennessee's one of them. Coming in at ninth is Texas A&M going 8-4. I know they went 10-2 overall. No, they went 11-1 in the regular season last year, but then they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Texas A&M will always find a way to choke in the biggest games, and they didn't really make any adjustments. They kept a lot of their players, which sounds good, but I don't think they should have. I think they should have made a quarterback change, because I don't think Marcel Reed is that guy who's going to take you to the promised land. I think Marcel Reed is just an okay quarterback. He's skinny, which isn't great, but he can throw and he can run. But his throwing accuracy, his pass accuracy is not always consistent, and sometimes it leads to turnovers and big games and big moments, and that will lose you the game. So I think Texas A&M goes 8-4 and finishes ninth in the conference. So above Texas A&M is a shocker. A lot of people really think it's a shocker. I have Alabama going 8-4 and 5-3 in the conference. 5-4 in the conference. Like I said earlier, Bama is one of those wild cards, and I don't believe in Bama this year. Not because I'm an Auburn fan necessarily, but of the way they have been declining slowly the last couple of years, ever since Kalen DeBoer got there. And they were 30th plus ranked in the transfer portal. Now, I know that's not that big of a deal, considering that Indiana was 30th plus ranked in the transfer portal last year, and they won the national championship. But I think that's because Kurt Cignetti and that coaching staff did a lot of the work to make that team great. And I don't think Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff at Alabama is as good as that coaching staff. So I think Bama will just not do as great as some of these other SEC teams that are going to make some big strides in the college football playoff. Coming in above Alabama is Florida. Now, I have Florida going 8-4 and 5-4 in the conference, just like Alabama, but I don't think they're actually that great of a team. I think they get really lucky in some games. I think Florida at quarterback isn't great, and I think John Summerall is a weird pick for them to hire as a coach, because if you look at his stats and where he came from, he's very similar to Billy Napier, who did not do great at Florida. So I think Florida gets lucky in their first year. They might make some strides in their second year, but I don't think John Summerall will work out with Florida. But the reason I have them going 8-4 necessarily is because they have a weak schedule, honestly. They only play one good team, and that would be Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is a good team, and they're very physical. And I think that's what is gonna make Oklahoma beat Florida, is their physicality. So Florida gets lucky, and they will lose 4 games, one of them being to Oklahoma. So I think Florida has a weak schedule, and they'll get by. Coming up next is Auburn, which is going to finish 6th in the conference. This could be a very biased prediction, but I'm going 9-3 and finishing 6-3 in the conference. I have them losing to Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss. So they'll start out 5-0. They'll lose the next 3 games and then win out, beating teams like Bama. They'll start out 1-0 being Baylor, because I think Baylor's just not a great team overall. That coach isn't great. He has a losing record in his career, and DJ Lagway was just not the QB to pick up. He's a turnover machine, and that's not going to work in that play style Baylor has. Auburn, I think, has a lot of chemistry already on the offense and defense, and the coach they got, Alex Golesh, is doing a good job building a community over there. So I think we win some games that we're not supposed to, like beating Bama at Bama and beating Tennessee at Tennessee. But then we lose to teams like Georgia at Georgia. We lose to LSU at LSU. No, actually, we lose to LSU at home. I think Lane Kiffin will do a fine job at LSU because of his recruiting and the money they have for recruiting. And they'll lose to Ole Miss at Ole Miss because the offensive output Ole Miss will have. Coming up at number 5 is Oklahoma, going 9-3 and 6-3 in the conference. I think Oklahoma's a good team. I think John Mateer, in my prediction, will finish as a Heisman finalist, throwing at least 3,000 passing yards. That is my prediction. I think he's a great quarterback. He was the number 1 quarterback coming out of the transfer portal last offseason, and the reason he didn't do great this year is because he had an injury early on in conference play against Auburn. Auburn accidentally swiped out his hand, and he had a minor injury, or he had a huge injury to the hand. Coming in at number... Actually, wait, I'm going to backtrack to Oklahoma again for a second. I think Oklahoma will make the playoffs, and I think they will... They'll beat a couple of good teams, but they lose to Texas. And the reason I have them losing to Texas is because I think Texas is a good team. And I actually do. I do think they're overrated. I don't think they're going to do as good as some people think they are. But I do think Texas is one of those teams that can be a good running offense, in my opinion. And speaking of Texas, they're actually at number 3, but I'm going to backtrack before them and go to Ole Miss, who's at number 4, going 9-3 as well. I think Ole Miss is a good team with good offensive output. I think, if I'm being honest, their new head coach will fit better than Lane Kiffin did. And the reason I believe that is, when I saw that head coach in the playoffs last year, I didn't even believe he would get past the second round. And he shocked me going all the way to the semifinal, having a game with Miami. So I believe he's a better fit than Lane was, in my opinion, and they can do more than Lane did, in my opinion. So Oklahoma will make the playoffs, and I have Ole Miss making the playoffs as well. And I have Texas coming in at 10-2 and 8-1 in the conference, making the playoffs as well, with Arch Manning and Cam Coleman being a Heisman finalist. Now, the reason I say that is because I don't necessarily think Arch Manning will have a type of Heisman year. I just think he'll get in there because of his last name. It's happened before with other players just being in there because of their name, or maybe they think they're good, but they didn't have that great of a season. For example, Marvin Harrison a couple years ago got into the Heisman race and went to New York, but he didn't. It was very obvious he was not going to win the Heisman. It was going to be either Michael Penix Jr. or Jayden Daniels. That was the real 2 options, with Bo Nix being 3rd. Coming up after Texas is LSU making it to the SEC Championship, going in the regular season 11-1. I think they win games that they shouldn't win. I think they go on a run. The only game I see them losing is at Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss will be rowdy. I think Trent Chambliss will have a great game. I think he'll be elusive and they'll have a hard time. And I think LSU will have a hard time trying to tackle him. And I think that coach will have a great game plan against Lane Kiffin's offense, since he is a little familiar, or very familiar, with Lane Kiffin. That is basically all I have for LSU. And coming at number 1, being the Georgia Bulldogs, going 13-0. I have them going 13-0 because I think they get, and I know this is a theme for this episode, I have them being somewhat lucky. I do air quotations for that because they're not necessarily going to be lucky in these games, but they're going to have a dogfight in so many of these games. I think they're going to have a dogfight with Bama. I think they're going to have a dogfight with other certain teams like Auburn. I think Auburn could be a dogfight if I'm being honest. And I think they'll just have they'll have very close games, but they win all of them. And for the SEC championship, I have it being Georgia versus LSU, and Georgia wins it 27-24, game-winning field goal with a couple seconds left on the clock. LSU can't do anything about it. That is my prediction for the SEC championship. So overall, Georgia is the best team in the nation. I have them being number one in the college football playoff because they're the only undefeated team going into it. And not because they're the best team, but because they win every close game they have. So I think Georgia, they survive all their games. Not domination, not with domination, but with survival. So that's going to conclude my SEC standings for this video. I plan to do other videos, like maybe the Big Ten standings, and I'm planning to also predict the college football playoff. So thank you for tuning in. I promise I'll make more.